President Bola Tinubu is calling for the re-evaluation of the current global governance structure and financial and also healthcare systems. He was speaking in Brazil, where he asked for greater equity and inclusion for low-income and emerging economies, particularly in Africa, at the 17th meeting of the Global South and the Emerging Economics Bloc, BRICS. President Tinubu says environmental degradation, climate crisis, and healthcare inequalities should receive more attention as they contribute to slowing growth and development. Nigeria became the 9th partner of the country of BRICS in January 2025, joining Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Thailand, Uzbekistan, and Uganda.
The African continent is creating the path through the African Carbon Market Initiative and Great Green Wall. We believe that eventually COP30 will strengthen our resolve to strategically embrace a healthy global environment. Nigeria strongly believes in South-South cooperation. We can therefore not be passive participants in global decision-making. Financial restructuring, debt forgiveness, climate change, environmental global healthcare. The African continent is creating the path through the African Carbon Market Initiative and Great Green Wall. We believe that eventually COP30 will strengthen our resolve to strategically embrace a healthy global environment. Nigeria strongly believes in South-South cooperation. We can therefore not be passive participants in global decision-making. Financial restructuring, debt forgiveness, climate change, environmental global healthcare.
And for more insights into the BRICS Summit, international relations expert Ria Fancelli joins me from Brazil. Good to have you join us on the world now. Over 30 nations want to join BRICS, either as full members or strategic partners. But talk to us about the potential of these alliances in counterbalancing some of the existing powers that we see globally today.
Good afternoon, Olamide. It's nice to be here. The fact that over 30 countries are lining up to join BRICS shows there's real momentum behind the idea of rebalancing global power. A lot of emerging economies are tired of feeling sidelined in international institutions, and BRICS seems like a promising space where they can have more influence. But there's one thing. Wanting to join is one thing. Turning BRICS into a real counterweight is another. It still lacks the institutional depth, legal frameworks, and shared values that underpin Western alliances. It's more of a coordination platform than a unifying bloc. So the world today isn't about one bloc replacing another. It's about creating new pathways. BRICS doesn't need to overthrow the Western-led order. It just needs to offer credible alternatives, whether that's through new trade corridors, development banks, or digital government frameworks. The appeal of BRICS, I think it's in its flexibility. If it can stay open, pragmatic, and relevant to the needs of the global South, it could shift the balance, not by confrontation, I think, but by multiplication of options.
But some of the Western-led institutions that we've seen today did not, start in a day. I'm referring to what you talked about, the BRICS not having enough framework. But we've seen the U.S. president threatening extra tariffs to countries seen aligning with anti-American policies, in quote. Does this escalate the tensions on ground, or is a necessary defense for influence of the United States?
I think that the US threatening extra tariffs is part of a broader strategy we've seen before, using economic tools to punish geopolitical choices. But for BRICS, the smart response isn't to retaliate directly, it's to enforce internal ties. That means boosting trade among members, expanding currency swaps and settlements outside the dollar, and of course, investing in infrastructure to connect BRICS countries more tightly. That's how you build resilience without falling into a tit-for-tat spiral. At the same time, we have to remember that not all BRICS members want to be cornered as anti-American. That label is simplistic and honestly inaccurate. Countries like Brazil and India still value strong ties with the US. What they want is room to maneuver. If BRICS can frame itself as a pro-South rather than an anti-Western bloc, it can avoid unnecessary escalation and still grow its influence. It's a delicate balance, I know, but one that it's possible if the bloc stays focused on shared interests rather than ideological battles.
Let's talk about the role of Brazil here under the presidency of Lula da Silva hosting this year's summit. The BRICS has a lot of members holding different agenda, interests, and geopolitical views. Referring to what you talked about, the United States, how do you think Brazil can reach meaningful consensus on an agreement that will benefit the member states?
I think Lula's approach is all about diplomacy and pragmatism. He knows BRICS is a mosaic of different regimes, priorities, and geopolitical alignments. So instead of trying to force uniformity, he's aiming for what we call minimum consensus. That means focusing on issues where everyone can agree, like digital inclusion, climate financing, infrastructure, and a fairer global governance. These aren't ideological, they're practical, and they resonate across the global south. He's also positioning Brazil as a bridge builder. Lula can talk to China, India, but also to Europe and the United States, and that gives him a unique role inside this bloc, alongside with India. I think India has a similar approach. And just to finish this question, his government seems to be trying to turn BRICS into a platform where disagreements don't block action. It's not about solving every problem, it's about moving forward where possible and keeping the door open for dialogue.
And the US is not giving up dominance easily without resistance. Talking about giving room for dialogue, do you think BRICS should interpret and respond to actions that, perhaps suggest a pushback against its influence? Or there should be room for cooperation?
Well, I think that's definitely a challenge, but one that the bloc has been anticipating. The US still dominates the global financial system, and when pressure builds, it tends to respond with tariffs, sanctions, or political pressure. That creates a real friction for countries that want to diversify their partnerships. China and Russia might be trying to confront the US and the G7, but countries such as Brazil and India are trying to create space by setting up alternative financial instruments, trade networks, and institutions that reduce dependence without burning bridges. At the same time, there is a growing understanding that the international order isn't as fixed as it once seemed. Power is more diffuse now, and BRICS is one of the platforms where that shift is becoming visible. The challenge is, I think, staying coordinated despite internal differences. The opportunity is huge, but only if BRICS can deliver real results, not just symbolism.
Ria, let's talk Africa now. Nigeria joined BRICS this year, becoming the 9th partner country, and we saw President Bola Tinubu saying that Africa pollutes the least but suffers the most. Did you see BRICS amplifying this message globally this year?
Yes, and in fact it should do that. Nigeria's president's message cuts to the heart of the climate justice debate. Africa actually contributes the least to global emissions, but bears a huge share of the consequences, from desertification to food insecurity. And if BRICS wants to be taken seriously as a voice for the global south, it needs to elevate the message and push for reforms in climate finance, green technology transfer, and equitable adaptation strategies. That's where the bloc can really make a difference. But it's not about only speeches. It's about actions. BRICS countries need to show that they're ready to support Africa, not just with words, but with investments, tech, and political backing in global forums such as the UN.
International relations expert Ria Fancheli, thank you for talking to us at this time.
Thank you for having me.